What is up, patrons? It's a Sound Alchemist here with
Gersh1.
And we're back at it to answer your questions.
In another episode of
For the Greater.
WAAAGH. This is a video. Well, you know this stuff. I feel like I did that last time. What's up, patrons? You guys, we have a more intimate relationship with you guys. So we're just going to start answering your questions.
We should put some like ambiance, set the ambiance, set the mood.
Let's do it. Ready?
Set. Valentine's Day is coming.
Yeah, patrons. This is probably going to come out on around, well, that's going to come out probably Monday. Happy Valentine's Day, guys. Next question comes from Martin Valadez.
What are you asking?
Hey, OMS, quick question. If you had a chance to reboot the entire 40K series, what changes would we see, or what would you keep the same? And also, what's better on a taco? On a taco tortilla, bistec or barbacoa? I would reboot the entire 40K universe and create female space marine.
Damn, cuh.
It's probably not gonna. I'm probably not gonna get the same results that I do from YouTube. Really, I am just trolling whenever I talk about female space marines because it's really funny to me how there's a huge like community of people or group of people that like go ballistic at the thought of like a female space marine. I know most of you guys don't. You guys know that, hopefully. That I'm just trolling and it doesn't really matter. But so if I were to reboot the entire series,
I feel like I would want more of a first person look into the Xenos races, because right now we're basically getting everything in the point of view of the Imperium. It's like, oh, these worlds are being besieged by, this Xenos race, but what about the Xenos race? Maybe they need materials and raw, resources. Maybe they have to attack. There's always two sides to the story.
Yeah, and the perfect way to do that, it would be like keeping the story the same, but starting from the beginning of the War in Heaven. So introduce the old ones and like have a box set of old ones versus Catan, or old ones versus Necrons, and then introduce the Catan, and then introduce the Eldar, introduce the Krork, and like go through like the entire 20 years, but as a narrative, like whenever a codex comes, or whenever a new edition comes out, a new century has come,
right?
Or a new millennia has come, and like the world changed that way. That way you have more narrative and more like flow, instead of what it is now. Of course, the guys who started all of this back in the 80s, they had no idea of how much it was going to blow up or whatever. They were just creating a really good story. But yeah, I think adding narrativeness would give the Xenos races more power.
Right. Because a lot of times it's just like, oh, so this is a space marine. This is what he thinks. What about little old Orky over here?
Yeah.
Little snotling.
Now, what's better, bistec or barbacoa? Depends on your mood.
Yeah. I mean, I like bistec, but barbacoa is good too.
Yeah, because you can get tired of bistec.
Mm-hmm.
Next question.
Doom 3STOS. Why is there a limitation of heavy weapons per squad for each squad unit? Is it because the Imperium is lacking the heavier specialist weapons in their arsenal, or is it just to balance the game up? I think it's a mixture of both.
So it balances the game,
mm-hmm.
and then at the same time, you see that now. Like, if like when there's a military force and it's creating weapons for its people, there's going to be like your baseline, right? So like you have your, what was it, M16 or whatever. Then you're going to have specialist units, because those types of weapons, the basic las gun can fulfill the purpose. It's very versatile, basically.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. Whereas like if you walk in there with a heavy autocannon and you give that to all of your units, if you guys get into melee, what are you guys going to do with a heavy autocannon? Like it's not gonna be as beneficial, because
right.
It's a very specific gun. It's oriented for a very specific thing.
So that's why you see, the balance of different weapons throughout an army. Because usually if you see an army that only brings one type of weapon, chances are they're probably going to lose.
Yeah. nobody's gonna run up to you. No unit is gonna run up to you with like rockets, because they're gonna be in the back shooting.
Even with like tournament lists, you see people using like spamming like Riptides or something like that. They always have something else to back them up. The Riptide was a very good unit, but you'd have like a line of fire warriors or crew to prevent them getting locked in close combat. So to every little spammy thing, you always need another type of supplement.
Next question comes from Capitan Sangre. He asks, have you all talked to Alexis the Ego Queen about some collaboration work? No, never even heard of her.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't heard about this channel, but we'll give it a shot and we'll see what it's about. Gracias, Capitan Sangre.
Next question comes from Azaria. Since the Space Wolves were never broken up into chapters, what lore reason could one use to give them an alternate paint scheme? There have been a lot of, what are they called when they go looking for Lehman Russ?
Great. I feel like it's called the Great.
Does it have to do something with like lunch or eating? Feast? No. Well, anyways.
Great. I don't know. It's called something.
So yeah, the Space Wolves have this yearly thing or whatever, where they go out looking for Lehman Russ, and not the entire company comes back. So you can say that a portion of your company was separated, and that event was very early on in the chapter's history, and they were separated because of some time travel through the warp phenomena thing, or they just were attacked by a certain species and like warp storms came or whatever. And then those Space Marines, the part of the Space Marines that were part of that company now had to, survive on their own, and they built their own chapter. And then through the years, they were encountered by the Imperium and not the Space Wolves. And because they didn't really hold on to their like information, they might have just said, "Oh, we're a successor chapter," or whatever, and then the Imperium wrote that in the books. There you go.
Good explanation. Next question is by Damien. My question is, if you could make a movie for the 40K universe, besides focusing on the Ultramarines, would you base it on Space Marines, or would you try and incorporate the entire 40K universe? Also, why would you choose that movie? Oh, that's the other part of the question.
So I don't think I would introduce the entirety of the universe. The reason for that is I think it would be too overwhelming. You're dealing with a universe that is very well established. Like there's so much sub-lore all over the place, that introducing like a crew, and then at the same time introducing the intricacies of the Adeptus Mechanicus and their belief in the machine god, that'd just be too much for a regular moviegoer. So I think that focusing on like 2 species at most, and 1 conflict would be really good. One of them would have to be humans, because you have to be relatable.
Right. I still stick to the idea of having you're following a guardsman. It might just be a new recruit. You could have him build character by like seeing him with his family, having fighting in wars, and have like the whole Saving Private Ryan thing, where it's just like death and devastation. The outlook is very grim, dark, and bleak. And then like he returns back to his company, and he's just like going over and over these battles, these fights, and it's just wearing him down. And then he's like stuck behind enemy lines. You've got some kind of either Xenos force, or I think Xenos would be better put, because if you introduce chaos, then you got to talk about chaos gods and demons and all that. And I feel like if they're just fighting aliens, then it's more relatable, or maybe even Rebel Guard or something like that.
Yeah.
Then you can have him be like, oh, he's lost hope. He's fighting all these grim, dark things. And finally, when all hope is lost, that's when you see drop pods, and you see just an inkling of these Astartes, these Space Marines, and their power armor. And then it's like, oh, these guys are out there. They do exist. Because to a lot of people in 40K, Space Marines are like a legend. They call them like Sky Warriors. They're the angels of death and all that stuff. So you rarely ever see the Space Marines.
Right.
And now you're seeing them for the first time. And with that introduction of Space Marines, kind of opens up a whole new world and different avenues to explore.
Yeah, that's really good. So like at the end, just
Right.
hint that it's a wider universe.
Right.
Yeah.
And those were the questions.
Thanks so much, patrons, for all that you do supporting us. Because of you, we are able to create videos for you. And then just comment down below.
That's right. Keep on. Well, you don't even have to do a question for your question. We'll get to all of them.
Thanks for everything, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Sound Alchemist,
Gershwan.
signing out.